John, a friend of the show, is back. His team didn't end well, but the Milwaukee Brewers had a great season, and their manager, Pat Murphy, will join us.
It'll be great to have Murph once again. He's been on several times. He's agreed to come on after a tough defeat in the LCS, and he is a great guest. I mean, anyone who saw those press conferences, they were must-watch press conferences, which you can't say many press conferences about. He is a fantastic talker, speaks his mind, and we're really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, he'll talk to us about the successes and the ultimate failure at the end of his team, what it looks like moving forward with guys like Freddie Peralta, Willie or won't he be a Brewer. We'll talk to him about those buzz-soaring Dodgers as they head towards the World Series against the Blue Jays. John and I will talk about the culmination of the AL pennant with George Springer's great home run. We'll preview the World Series a little bit. We'll play Hit and Error at the end. If you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman. John, I'm back in New York as I speak to you, but I flew in this morning from Toronto. I was there when we're doing this on Tuesday, Monday night, Game 7. Game 7s are always great. This one was particularly great and turned late on one of the most dramatic home runs you'll see in postseason. George Springer, who's got 23 homers now in the postseason, tied with Kyle Schwarber for the third most ever, hit a three-run homer. Strange decision that Edward Buzzardo was the guy who delivered the pitch to George Springer. Let's talk about it. It means the Blue Jays won the last two games in Toronto. It means they're going to the World Series for the first time since winning back-to-back in 1992, 93. And it means the Seattle Mariners are remain over their history as far as getting there, though literally getting to Game 7 means they went further than they've ever gone before in the ALCS. So, John, I was there. I wrote about it. You tell me what you were thinking watching it.
Well, first of all, Seattle, it's hard to believe they've never made the World Series. A team that's had Ichiro and Edgar, a Griffey, A-Rod, a big unit. It's really shocking that they haven't. I thought that they were the favorite for this team. I didn't look at BetMGM or whatever. I thought they were, a little more talent, at least on paper. To give Toronto credit, they're a team. They're a true team. I don't think their rotation is fully together. Their bullpen isn't overwhelming in terms of talent. They've got one superstar. They've got a lot of good players. They put the ball in play. I love the way they play. John Schneider's done a terrific job. I'm giving Toronto credit, and they're a true team. Let's see if a true team can beat the best team. And because we know, I mean, even though the Dodgers don't get to home field because they had a worse record than Toronto, the Dodgers have an overwhelming amount of talent, and they are the clear favorite. I'm not even going to consult any of the betting sites. They are the favorite. So it would be quite a coup if Toronto was able to win this World Series.
John, you know this well, right? I'm at the game last night. It means I have an 11 o'clock deadline, what we call a running deadline. I got to produce a column as the game's going on. And I'm deep into that column about the Mariners going to the World Series for the first time. I'm like, Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez hit homers in the way that Ken Griffey and Alex Rodriguez and Jay Buhner couldn't, right? Like they got the team to the World Series. All the great players. They have a bunch of players who were good enough to get to Cooperstown, but not to the Fall Classic. Uh, when you do that, you're getting very locked in on your words. You're trying very hard to follow the game, the emotion of the moment. And out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching it become first and second, second and third, and one out. And I cannot believe that Edward Buzzardo is coming into this game. I mean, we go through this every year, John. Dan Wilson knows this suffering well, right? He's played the six most games in the history of the organization. He was a catcher during one of their heydays in the early 2000, late 90, early 2000 period. Uh, but John, we watch this. He says after the game that this was the moment that this was his job all year. What does June 7th have to do with yesterday? And what does his job all year? You already had using Brian Wu as a reliever. Was that his job all year? Like you already have noted, this is a different special game. It's lose or go home. Only the best people touch the ball in the biggest spot. The lineup has turned over to the top of the lineup. The Blue Jays, yes, to your point, they put it in play. They get a lot of contributions, but they're particularly lethal at the Springer first, Guerrero third portion of this.
Right.
Uh, Munoz had not given up a hit in the postseason. He hadn't given up a hit. He's an all-star closer. I just don't know how he's not in the game. You know what it reminded me of, John? And because I hearkened it to Joe Carter's homer. And unfortunately, I'm old enough. Were you there? Else I was in the park
Yeah.
when Joe Carter hit the home run. And then afterwards, Jim Fregosi, rest his soul, the manager of the Phillies, is talking about he's stuck with Mitch Williams beyond all recognition of him being a decent major league pitcher because that had been his job all year. And I'm like, well, what's the matter what his job was all year? You knew he couldn't survive this.
Right.
Like at some point, people define themselves. And how do you sleep at night if you never get your best guys in?
Yeah, Dan, I don't know, can't answer how he's going to sleep at night, but he blew it. I mean, I think everybody watching understood that that moment was made for Munoz, who's not only their best reliever, he's one of the best relievers in baseball. We have two, second and third, uh, one out. The top of the order coming up. Springer, one of the greatest postseason hitters of all time. You need to get through that inning. That is the key inning. He made a mistake, no question about it. That said, as you pointed out, he got them further than they've ever gotten before. He had them playing all year. They certainly hit a lot better. The new regime, much, much better with Seitzer, with Edgar. Their 740 OPS, much improvement. It was under 700 previously. They certainly were a better team. So overall, he did a good job. I hear people calling for him getting fired. That can't possibly be happening. He obviously made a mistake. Uh, the odds still were that they were in their favor, but I mean, to bring in a guy who pitched the day before, in a game meaningless situation where they had the game was over for a couple innings. This third time, I believe, that Springer had seen Bizzardo. You don't want the starter to see somebody three times, but you'll have this retread reliever. I mean, give Bizzardo credit; he's turned his career around. But it's the guy who's been DFA'd twice. He's not a 101 mile per hour throwing closer. It was clearly a mistake and a big one. So, if he doesn't get it like most of us do, maybe he will be able to sleep better. So good for him for that. But I mean, he's obviously did a good job this year getting the team where they got. So
Yeah.
that will help him sleep.
Yeah, I mean, they hadn't finished first since 2001. They finished first. It's only the fourth time in their history they finished first. I mean, it's a in the small picture, it's a triumphant year, but like when you go back that they have been around since 1977 and they're the only of the 30 teams that has never been to, of the 30 current teams that has not been to the World Series. And they had to win one of two games in Toronto, where they won the first two games on the road to kind of gain an advantage in the series. And they're winning with 8 outs to go, and you don't have your best guy on the mound. These opportunities, as the Mariners should know more than anyone, do not pass by that often. And John, just about their attack, it was funny watching them play. I don't hold me to it. It was like 23 of their 29 runs were scored via homer. They're a lot like the Yankees, actually.
Absolutely. Right.
Like,
For two
like, like,
teams that relied on the home run to this degree, more than 50% of the runs through the year, and 23 out of 29 is obviously closer to 75%, but more than 50% of the runs came via the home run. And just to go on your point a little bit more, I mean, look, they may get there next year. They still have this pitching rotation intact, but I mean, this pitching rotation should have been good enough for a World Series. They did obviously get Suarez and Naylor and improve the team quite a bit this year, but I mean, are they going to waste this whole era with this great starting pitching? It's really unfortunate if they do.
yeah, John, why don't we spin it forward? We'll both be at Media Day at Rogers Center on Thursday and at games one and two over the weekend in Toronto before we fly uh, from Canada and across the country to Los Angeles for three, four, and five. Uh, John, obviously, the Blue Jays are going to be staggering underdogs in this series. And we've covered plenty of series where staggering underdogs have won. The 1990 Reds were staggering underdogs to the A's and swept the A's. The one I hearkened to last night, just because it began with a limping slugger, Kirk Gibson, the Dodgers, coincidentally, were the huge underdogs in 1988 against the Bash brother, against Sandy Alderson and Tony La Russa's Bash brother A's. Gibson hits the homer in game one with a hamstring and a knee injury and kind of gimps around. It reminded me of Springer, who took a 96-mile-an-hour fastball off his right knee from Brian Wu, and like really looked like he was struggling on, especially game six, where he was down on his knees a lot and he didn't run really well. But man, that is a clutch player. They put the ball in play. And John, I know there's upsets. I don't know how this team, because of the starting pitching, gets through the Dodger lineup and limits enough runs where the Blue Jays could do enough damage against what is the best rotation in the sport, pitching its best. Please convince me, hey, small sample size otherwise, because I'd love it to be a
Yeah.
series since I'm doing all this traveling for it. But I mean, it looks rough for me. It feels like the Blue Jays won their championship last night.
Yeah, I'll go back to what you started with. Anyone can win. It's a small series, short series. Of 162 games, they did win more games than the Dodgers. Of course, the Dodgers were playing load management. Snell barely performed in the regular season. Now he's the best pitcher in the game. So, I mean, obviously the Dodgers are going to be overwhelming favorites. But what's an overwhelming favorite in a best of seven series? Not just the Reds, the Pirates in 1960, but you really don't have to go back that far. The underdog has won a lot, and it's because anybody can win in baseball. I mean, obviously the Blue Jays are a really good team. They have stars, which it seems to take stars. I think that's why these small market teams don't do it. And we'll talk to Pat Murphy later, but why do these small market teams not do it? They don't have an Ohtani. They don't have a Vlad Guerrero. They don't have a Raleigh. They don't have, big players like this, and it seems like those players do rise to the occasion. I know we have the Lemkes and the other, Doyle, the World Series heroes that are surprises, but ultimately, it's a big help to have Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, and that's why the Dodgers are going to be the big favorite. But Toronto's a good, well-rounded team. It only takes 4 wins. Anything can happen in a baseball game, as we saw last night, as we do this. So certainly they can win. Am I picking Toronto? I mean, it's tough to do that. I should probably consult with Mike Puma, who at the beginning of the year had Toronto against the Dodgers. I think we all probably had the Dodgers, unless you're a real gambler. But to pick Toronto at the beginning of the year, I didn't see it. I think I kind of made fun of them early on with that pick. Right.
Mike Puma, of course, our Mets beat writer. John, the one thing, as just a wrap up for this, I wonder if you have a thought on it, is we also covered the Yankee dynasty, which was the last time a team won back-to-back titles. The Yankees won three in a row from 1998 to 2000. And there were two things about that. Well, there was a lot about that team, but temperamentally, there was kind of a calm that came over that team at this time of year. They just kind of felt like when they got to 27 outs, they would have more runs than the other team. And so they never kind of got flustered. They were behind 3-2 or something. They knew Rivera was sitting at the end if they had a lead. And they just had a lot of reps doing it, and they got great at it. And there felt like an inevitability to their winning after a while. I, I'm starting to feel it about the Dodgers a little bit. You were with them for these rounds. You feeling it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a dynasty. They're in a dynasty. They've been in the playoffs 13 years in a row. They won the division 12 years in a row. If they win the championship, this will be 3 times in 6 years World Series champion. It is a legit dynasty. They have an amazing amount of talent. They know it. I mean, even the guys who aren't good in the regular season or pretty good, but not great, like Edman and particularly Kike Hernandez, become great in the postseason. But do they even need them to be great? They've got Betts, Otani's the best player probably since Babe Ruth or ever. Betts is an all-time great, and Freeman to me, first ballot Hall of Famer, and that's not even doing it justice. On one ankle last year, he eliminated the Yankees in the World Series. So I mean, they've got 3 absolute superstars. They've got at least 4 Hall of Famers, and I'm not even counting Dave Roberts, who I think is an underrated manager. They have an overwhelming team. They coasted through the regular season. They didn't mind playing that first round against the Reds. It was that was one where I would have had a hard time saying, even in a 2 out of 3, that Cincinnati could have won that. Yeah, I mean, they really certainly are a confident team. And by the way, Betts is an outstanding shortstop. I mean, I thought when we first saw him, I thought he was well below average at the start, which why wouldn't he be? He's an outfielder. He's outstanding. I think he's one of the best shortstops in baseball right now. Yeah, that to me is amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like they're toying with everyone. Their right fielder's playing shortstop. The starter, everyone was going after is closing. Otani pitches and hits. It's like it's a fantasy camp for the Dodgers. You know, John, when Freeman was a free agent, when I was writing advocating that the Yankees should go hard after him, the comp I made as an offensive player was George Brett, who I thought he hit like, and I thought he would age like. Brett
Yep.
hit until he was 40. I actually think, and also hit big in the postseason. And I think we're seeing all that from
I
Freddie
just
Freeman.
want to say on that, yeah, I mean, the Yankees did go hard after him. It never really came out because he had told his agent once the Matt Olson trade happened and he went to Atlanta and he was out of a job in Atlanta. He told his agent, "Get me home." Basically, that was it. That was a three-word message, and Excel, Casey Close had to get him to the Dodgers, and that was it. He wanted to go home at that point. He didn't go to the Yankees. The Yankees would have been happy to pay him more than that. And he didn't want to do it. You know, when I talked to him about this during the LCS, his answer is, "Oh, they never made an offer. They never made an offer." Yeah, well, you didn't let them make an offer. The Yankees would have been happy to sign him. I don't know that was they were listening to you, but they were on that page and would have signed him happily had they had that opportunity.
Let's table it. I think the chronology by then is they already had re-signed Judge's pal Anthony Rizzo, right?
That could be. You're better at that than I am.
Yeah, I think that they, after the lockout,
Yep.
whatever happened then, anyway, we'll tackle that. We have bigger things like the World Series in front of us, and we have a real big thing. Pat Murphy's team, the Brewers, had the best record in the major leagues this year. He did a great job. He ran into the stone wall that was the Dodgers. I'm sure we'll ask him a lot about that and the excellence of his team this season. If you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman. John and I are so pleased to be joined by a friend of the show. He's been on with us before. He was the NL Manager of the Year in 2024. I dare say, sorry, Jinx, Pat Murphy. I think you're going to be the NL Manager of the Year in 2025. He was the skipper of the team with the best record in the major leagues. They won the NL Central again under his stewardship. Pat Murphy, thank you so much for joining us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman.
I wouldn't miss it. You guys are
Uh,
real powerhouses. You can't turn down powerhouses, you know?
Yeah. And you're a real flatterer. Thanks. Murph, I'm wondering how you digest big picture the season. This team accomplished so much. As I mentioned, it had the best record. It held off the rest of the division again. It played really well for you, it seemed from a distance for the length. And then you won a round of the playoffs, and then you ran into the defending champions in a buzzsaw, and it was a 4-0 sweep. Uh, how does it compute for you? What kind of year was this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very pleased with so much. I'm thankful and grateful to be part of it, have a group of young guys that really cared and really gave a damn. And, when you have that buy-in, when they really give a damn about the win, it's very gratifying to see them all pull together. We're not going to say we're the best because we had the best record. We're not going to say we're a failure in any way because we ran into a buzzsaw for 4 games with the Dodgers. And I think anybody could see that the Dodgers were special for those 4 games for sure, and probably some before that. And we'll see about the future. But um, yeah, I mean, they this team beat the Dodgers 6 times. This team held off a division that, if anybody's tracking it, and I don't know that people track the Central as well as they do the other coasts, but I mean, this league is good. You see the rotation that the Pirates have, let alone what the Reds have, what they've done. And the Cardinals are so capable. When you're facing Sonny Gray, and we faced him 4 times this year, when you're facing, the type of lineup that they threw out from time to time, it's a tough league. And the Cubs say no more. They have a worthy team that is capable of winning it all. So I'm proud of that. Digesting it, it takes me a while. I hurry up, have to compartmentalize, get the transition back to Arizona, take care of staff, take care of player issues, those type of things, put everything that in order, and then hurry up back to Arizona. And then it'll be a while, and then it'll start making sense. But with the budget and the injuries and everything we had stacked against us, for these guys to go out and do what they did, it was awesome watching it.
Murph, fantastic job. You are the manager of the year, I'm sure. Just terrific. I want to ask you this. Is it a tough ask or almost impossible for a small market team to do this? Obviously, as good a job as your front office does, they don't have $700 million lying around for Shohei Ohtani, nor could they sign as
Right.
agents Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman. Obviously the Royals were able to break through a decade ago, but generally the big market teams prevail in these short series with the stars doing it. Is it near to impossible for these small market teams to overcome?
You guys would have better perspective than me. I think it's changing in that the rich are getting richer, and it's getting more difficult to break through. I think we broke through as good as anyone has, of the small market teams. Now you're talking, 10 years ago when Kansas City did it. I mean, that's pretty special, homegrown for the most part. And I think we have to do it that way too. I think it has to be homegrown and pick up some of the right pieces. And I mean, it's still very difficult when you're going against. Look at the pitching we faced in those 4 games. It was nothing short of incredible. And our offense has been pretty consistent. I'm not saying we're the best, but we put it in play and we score runs, and we just didn't in those 4 games.
I don't want to jump off your team. I'm sure we'll still talk more about it, but you mentioned what feels like the strongest item that any team had in the postseason, which is the Dodger rotation, which is saying something since their lineup opens with 3 Hall of Fame bound players who are still at the top of their game. Uh, the Blue Jays are going to be significant underdogs in this World Series. Can anybody beat this rotation?
Yeah, they can. I mean, it's not easy to go out and throw as well as Yamamoto did or Ohtani did. Now, Glass now is one of the best, but he's gettable. And at this point right now, I mean, it's again, he's that special that he can go 6 shut too, but he's got. When Yamamoto's on and that split looks like the heater, and the heater's going up and the split's going down, and one's 92 and one's 98, it's pretty hard to discern. And oh, by the way, then I'll drop in a breaking ball anytime for a strike. And Ohtani the same way. He'll throw a sweeper, throw a heater, then throw a cutter. Like, Shohei, come on, limit your pitches. It's just been unbelievable what he's done. So you think of that, and then Snell, what can you say? He was on it. I mean, throwing 7 and 8 changeups in a row. Like, who does that? Yeah, I mean, he was special. And he knew what he was facing. He's faced this before, and he neutralized it. And, man, he was special. And then dropping breaking balls and sliders to left-handers for strikes and then for outs. And then his changeup, impeccable with depth. And sometimes he cut it. And then, oh, by the way, here's 97 at your neck. He's those 3, but they can be off. We've seen Snell walk people. We've seen Glass now walk people. We've seen Yamamoto. We got him for 7 runs in the first inning here. So if they don't repeat that, any team can beat anybody.
Yeah, the Dodgers have overwhelming talent, really all-time great roster. I think that's the number one factor. That's probably 98% of it. I'm wondering, my in-laws are from Milwaukee. They were very excited when you beat the Cubs. You got past the first round, which was a big hurdle for the Brewers for a long time, and you beat the Cubs, who they don't like.
It's really the second round, John, because we didn't have to play in the wild card. So,
right. Okay.
So now you're playing for the World Series. Beating the Cubs was so emotional, John. It drained us. It drained me. And then we have to practice the next day and play the next day. It's like, ooh, that felt, I can imagine how the players felt. And we still lost 2-1 with the bases loaded in the ninth, you know, and had opportunities to win there. So I commend this team. I admire this team we had in Milwaukee. Um, Unfortunately, we ran into the buzzsaw of the Dodgers at the wrong time.
The buzzsaw again is about their starting pitching. I wonder about managing this time of year. I get it. Not everybody has Glasnow and Snell and Yamamoto and Otani at their disposal, and you've got to do what you've got to do. Uh, but is there something to be said for starting pitchers at this time of year and trusting like it's all about decision making and trusting your best, right? And
Yeah, it
I
is. But the starting pitching at this time of year, you just don't have any room for error. So you let him go. I mean, if Yamamoto gave up 2 runs in the first game, he's out. You know what I mean? Like you have to. Now the Dodgers didn't have the confidence in their pen, but I know for us, anybody that was going to give up runs is out. Because in a 7-game series, you need a lot more pitching, and you can be a little more lenient. It's a little more realistic with starting pitching. But in a 5-game series, heck no.
but so
But
But Murph, if I've just can I assist this? Look,
sure,
the problem is you could do this anyway, right? Like, are you letting your starters see guys a lot? But relievers are relievers generally, right? Because they're like
right.
one or two trick ponies. And at MLB Network, we get the data all the time about like when the relievers see the guy in a playoff series for a third time or fourth time, how bad the numbers skew. I think we saw it again last night with Bizzardo and Springer. You had it a little bit with Aaron Ashby in the top of their lineup. Are we asking guys who are relievers because they're relievers to do too much at this time of year? And it's like, hey, I got Jason Mizorowski. I might as well let him throw 100 and see what the hell happens.
Yeah. Well, that's a fair point that you bring up, but it's case by case. If you map it out, Ashby, you don't want him to face the same guy, so he didn't face Bush 3 times, and that was what our concern would be. Facing Tucker 3 times, we weren't as concerned with that one because Tucker's wasn't on it versus left-handers the way he was earlier in the season, but it was a case by case basis. It was mapped out, believe me, hours and hours put into that kind of planning, especially when you don't have true starters. We didn't have, true starters. We had put Miz in the pen and then we had some injuries. Woody goes down. That hurts us. A small market team that has bad luck too, like we had in the beginning of the season with injuries and at the end. It speaks to really building depth, and maybe those pitchers don't. Freddie Peralta had 36 starts this year. Like that's a lot. And he did 30 some last year. I mean, it's a lot. And you see some of his arsenal has changed a little bit, especially after a start 35 or 30, like it's one of those things where small market teams have to operate way differently. And it's also dependent on your personnel and the injuries at the end. Now, the Dodgers, it just lined up. Snell didn't pitch a whole season. Otani didn't pitch a whole season. Glasnow didn't pitch a whole season, and Yamamoto did. But he's a little bit of a freak, by the way. And that's why I don't know what he costs, but I'm sure, sure his legacy's family legacy in the finance business isn't going to struggle, you know. Um, yeah, but I think small market teams, you just have to piece it together. 7-game series takes on a different identity. Um, Man, but for us, if you were to say the Dodgers are going to score 14 runs in 4 games, what's the score after 4 games? What's the series? You wouldn't say 4-0. So
Right.
I think our pitching decisions turned out to be pretty good, and we really limited. They left a lot of guys on base, which is a sign of getting guys out at the right time, I think. But I mean, it's an issue, man. How is a team like ours going to build that starting pitching? It's got to be from within because you're not going to go out. What's the cost of a starting pitcher? Sonny Gray's going to make $35 million last year. We faced him 4 times, and he's on a team that was 500 team.
Now, Yeah, you've thrived 2 straight years with the loss of Burns and then Adames. But I'm glad you touched on the starting pitching here. It feels like it's still kind of in flux. Woody now, Woodruff is now a free agent. Montgomery you acquired. It sounds like that could be a good reclamation project. Um, I mean, maybe this is crazy, but the Brewers were the team that traded for Zach Greinke when he had what is it, his walk year, giving up Kane and Escobar. Skubal is out there with a year to go. You got great prospects. I mean, is that crazy to think that the Brewers could be a team to trade for Skubal? How are you going to piece together? I mean, that's probably a long shot. How are you going to piece together the rotation next year?
No, I think that's what we're working on right
Peralta, you
now.
mentioned you
Yeah,
mentioned Peralta. I mean, is he going to be back? He's got a year to go as well.
right, right. So again, you mentioned some really good points. I mean, that's why I came on the show. I felt pressured. If you don't come on the biggest show in town and with the smartest guys, you'll never get asked. So, no, I mean, those questions are the questions being talked about right now. It's you've got to make a forecast on someone's health, how he's going to thrive. If there was the Scooble thing, believe me, there's a lot of teams in baseball that would give up a lot right now for that. But when you think of our organization, giving up prospects for 1 year of control of somebody is probably not what we do best. And it probably doesn't make sense, does it?
No, I was
Well,
thinking
the,
Greinke was the your team did trade for Greinke, right? Wasn't it the Brewers?
yeah,
So
that was a couple of administrations ago, though.
yeah.
And I think that we'd acquire Greinke now because he's probably still good enough to pitch. So
Yeah, Murph. Just because you mentioned it's with him with a year to go, acquiring him, it's more traditional for your team with a year to go to trade a guy. John brought up Peralta. I mean, do you brace yourself at this point that this is just the reality of your market that you have to churn a guy in this situation? And even though he's your ace, in the way that Corbin Burns was your ace with a year to go, if you don't do it, if you're not proactive, you can't stay at the top of the division, or do you play it out because he's Freddie Peralta and he's been pretty damn good for you?
yeah, he's been an icon here. I mean, he's loved in the clubhouse. He's loved in the front office. He's loved by our fans and our community. He does a lot in the community. This guy's real. It's legit. Um, but that is our mode of operandum. Is that I'm sure that there'll be conversations about that, and teams will make offers. And I think we feel like for that price, we've got to get ourselves something really special. And or I think we're 100% happy keeping him going forward because that's like you said, our starting pitching is kind of a question mark. Losing Woody, if we don't re-sign Woody or make him a big deal, then you know that's And when you look at where we operate budget wise, you don't have a lot of wiggle room to go get a starter. So
I want to ask you, you were a longtime college coach, ASU and Notre Dame, two big programs, obviously. So it's only been, I guess, a decade in Major League Baseball, most of the time as a coach up until a couple of years ago. What do you think about that route? There is a kind of strong indication now that Tony Vitello from Tennessee is the choice for the Giants. Is that easy? Can someone go from college coach to major league manager? You had a kind of an 8-year transition
yeah,
period.
no.
You
Well,
were
I'm not as smart as some of these guys, so it took me a little longer. Um, I wouldn't have been ready. Whatever year my last year was, 2010 or whatever, I would not have been ready to to go to the big leagues. I wasn't ready in 2015 when I got the interim job. Um, but again, let me say this: Buster Posey. I've never met him. I've competed against him for years. Um, I have unbelievable respect for this guy. The way he kept adjusting in the game and how he led his pitching staff, which was way underrated. Um, but I just think he knows all this. He knows it's a tremendous transition from college to major leagues for a guy that's never been in a major league dugout. He knows all this. So with the club he's got coming back, and with the coaches and people he has around him in the front office, they're not stupid. They know what they're getting into, and they see things in this guy that help lead a club. And what I'm talking about is an unabashed way of saying, this is how we're going to do it. Or a personality that can handle the media, a personality that can handle different types of players. I think they know what they're doing. I think everybody in the world knows, why, how can this work? You can't go from harness racing to thoroughbred racing. Oh, yes, you can if you know what you're getting into, and that horse can run. So again, I think it's a great thing for the game, and I think that it's something that the Giants are not stupid. They're not throwing a dart at the board. They've done their research, and they believe this guy can do it. So I'm going to say he can do it.
Murph, on the subject of managers, if you include Don Kelly being retained as from interim to full time in Pittsburgh, a team you invoked earlier about their starting pitching, 1/3 of the league is going to be changing managers this offseason, 10 out of 30. It seems to me
We're
at a
expendable. We're expendable.
well, that's where I'm going. Is like it's interesting that we hear all the time that the managers don't have the keys to the kingdom that they used to have, but the guys who have the keys to the kingdom are essentially Supreme Court justices. They never lose their jobs. I wonder what you think about the state of managing right now. Like, does
Right.
something need to change where, if a guy like Pat Murphy, you talked about your long apprenticeship and you're self-effacing, you're obviously terrific at this, proves that he can do this job, then is it Bill Parcells said that if I, like if you're asking me to like cook the meal, you got to let me shop for the groceries every once in a while also.
Right.
Should the role of the manager, which is already pretty vast in all the things you've got to do, but should there be more of a power base here, or take me wherever you want to go on where
Yeah.
managing is in 2025,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. I think that, well, I think what Counts did, he got himself paid. And he was a first round pick, so to speak, And Counts got paid as a first rounder, and then Dave Roberts got paid as a first rounder. And I think what's happening is the managers are striking back, saying, "Okay, if you're not going to pay me, and you're not going to let me shop for the groceries very much, then I'm going to get paid, and I'm going to go someplace else." And they're going to use their bargaining when they can to put themselves in position, knowing it's so volatile. If the Dodgers didn't make the playoffs, let's say, they're not firing Dave Roberts. I mean, that's a big nut. That's a lot of money. It's $50 million probably, or something like that. So I don't think that. I think the only way to combat it is you got to pay the manager, and if you don't, then you're going to get guys in there that don't affect the clubhouse, because it hasn't been a thing yet where the general manager is the one that affects the clubhouse, the culture and the day to day. So I think the manager does have a big role. I hope so. Shit, for my sake, Jesus, I think I have a decent sized role. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just getting old and they're just pushing me around and they're just waiting to push me out of pasture. I don't know.
Not at all. You did an amazing job with the roster this year. Amazing. Let me ask you, and Joel and I are both friends with AJ Preller. He's a friend of the show. We've been on many times. What happened on that 2015 staff? You have you and Dave Roberts on the staff. Since then, they've had like 37 managers. They're now hiring their 38th manager. What the heck happened? Why aren't you or Dave Roberts the manager of the San Diego Padres?
Yeah, well, I wasn't ready, John. I love AJ, and people can say what they want. I love the guy, and all you got to do is look at the stands when you go play San Diego, and you know what kind of job he's done. Um, Love him or criticize him or whatever you want to do. I'm telling you, the guy knows how to win. And when I was there was a president there that was overseeing baseball still, not the owner. So it was complicated. And I got in for 90 games. And I tell you, I wasn't ready in that. I didn't know the team. They didn't know me. I was an outsider. Doc wasn't sure about managing, and he didn't know for sure. He had just started out in this business. He had just getting his feet wet. Mark Kotze was on the staff. He was a hitting coach, and he was just starting coaching. Um, uh, you know, it was one of those things. We had kind of an eclectic team that wasn't supposed to win. They told me that when I took the job, but we got to 500, and then September was really rough. They played the Dodgers and the Giants, I think 14 times. Uh, um, and it was just a tough month. But um, I just don't think either of us were essentially, you know, in a position to impact that team like we could have. And I especially wasn't ready in my mind. I did some things and there were some good parts to it and I learned a lot, but it was a tough 95 games. But when it comes to Preller, I mean, he's demanding, I think in a good way. He wants to win championships. He's not just about analytics. He's not just about old school baseball, but the guy can provide you some prospects. The guy can provide you, um, some players, and I think that they've shown that. And I think a lot of the managerial stuff so far for him has been on an individual basis, and it happens. They'll hit it, they'll get it right, and you know, and I don't know that he's making the decision on all those, to be quite honest with you.
Murph, as a way to wrap up, we're talking a lot about the art of managing. And I think that there was real admiration across the breadth of the sport this year for how your team played. It seemed to play with lots of heart and hustle. It seemed to play technically well, and needed to, right? You're with a U, a guerrilla operation, right? You're trying to beat the big boys with, sticks and rocks, and they have more than that in weaponry. And I don't know, Murph, when I see things go wrong in New York, I say, why isn't this addressed? And they'll say, oh, it's tougher in New York, or the players are a different breed of players. And I'm like, I don't know. Seems Pat Murphy seems to be able to tell players what they need to hear to play the game right. Using you as an example, do you think the players still like? I think players want to be led, even in
But it's
2025, and do the right thing. And I wonder what you think about kind of the art of managing right now in 2025. Can you tell a hard truth to a player to get him to play the game the right way?
absolutely. But I don't know that I'm good at it. And I don't know, again, I mean this, like, I don't know that I'm good at it, but I think crucial conversations are imperative to lead. Crucial conversations. And I want to tell you, they're not fun. They give you trepidation and whatever, but you have to be willing to make crucial um, decisions with crucial conversations. And to me, bringing out of the best in players is about the player. The player has to decide and have reason to decide to be hungry to play to win and to play the game. You can call it the right way. There's a huge ambiguous kind of understanding of winning players and how to play the right way. And I think you can draw it out of almost anyone. This is like mental toughness. You can draw it. Everybody can access it, but I can tell you a million times I didn't access it. And I can tell you, and nobody would say, hey, Pat Murphy's not a good competitor. But the truth is, there's been plenty of times when I'm not a good competitor that I didn't go get my mental toughness, that I made an excuse or that I wasn't hungry. And again, I think if you critically analyze yourself and you're constantly under construction to get better, this is leadership. It's trying to be authentic but real about where players need to go and helping them understand you don't have all the answers because you have all the money. Money doesn't give you answers. It just, maybe bigger houses and nicer cars, but it doesn't give you the answer on what you need to do, what adjustment you need to make in order to make this thing go and the effect you have on others. That's the other thing. Players don't realize the effect they have on others. And it can be one bad apple that gets our minds on the wrong stuff. It's about winning tonight. How do you get them ready day in and day out to win tonight? No matter what you got going on off the field, no matter how much the stock market went down or how much your significant other, crashed the car, it's about winning tonight. I
Well,
don't know if
Murph,
I answered it, Joel.
no, you
I'm
did.
not
I mean,
super smart.
I mean, again, I don't think your team plays smart and hard by accident, no matter how you might downplay that. And I don't think teams that play dumb and leave some of their energy in the clubhouse do that by accident either. So that was my way of saying, I'm assuming I'm going to see you at the baseball writers dinner again because I think you're going to win Manager of the Year again, and it will be well earned. And more important for the immediacy, you mentioned being on the show. John and I do. We, we've had this now 2 weeks in a row. AJ Hinch came on after his team was eliminated. This isn't an easy time for people who put in the time, energy, and heart that guys like you put into a season. So John and I truly appreciate
Thanks.
with the season over, you joining us and giving your insights on the show. So thank you so much, Murph, for joining us.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
John and I thank Pat Murphy, manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, for joining us on the show. John, hit or error?
I'm going to give a hit to Cal Raleigh, 65 home runs. That's a lot of home runs for a clean player. I think it's probably the most ever, right, overall, counting the playoffs. Incredible. While he's catching, he did a great job. To me, deserves plaudits. I saw his interview afterward. He looked very sad, naturally, that they lost. About his doing, just a terrific, terrific player. I kind of think Judge is probably going to be the MVP, but Raleigh, if he wins it, he's earned it as well.
Yeah, 65 homers. It was one more than Judge had in his year when he hit 62. Judge got to 64. So it was a 65-64 win there. Though, to your point, I'm not sure he's going to win in the other place. And I guess a hit is the right word to use there for somebody who hit like Cal Raleigh and really looked like he was on fumes at the end and still came up with a huge homer in the last game of his season. John, I'm going to go to that game also. I'm going to give a hit here to Don Mattingly, who I think is a somebody you and we both covered him when he was a player and we were still beat writers. I try to impress upon people who are younger now just how big Don Mattingly was. Last night, I was around John Schneider in the clubhouse after the game, and I asked him what it meant for Mattingly to finally, after 4+ decades in the sport, to finally get to his first World Series. And John Schneider reminded us that like there were a lot of people in the game like him. He grew up, his idol was Don Mattingly. He had the Hitman poster on his wall. And he said, someplace my 10-year-old self is jumping up and down on the bed because Don Mattingly's finally going to a World Series. It was a beautiful quote by Schneider about somebody who I think has given his heart and his energy to the game, who's somebody who handled greatness well. He was always available for guys like us. He was never cliche ridden. That's, by the way, still true today. I saw him after game 6, and we chatted for a while. He's as gracious and kind and nice as ever. And I think to know Don Mattingly is to like him, and I think to know him is to be happy that for the first time in a long, distinguished career, he is going to play the last games of the season.
Absolutely. We're all thrilled for Don Mattingly, who, as you said, is one of the best guys in the game and to me should be in the Hall of Fame. I voted for him. I don't, did they give us 15 chances or 10 back then? I don't
I
know.
think he was a 15, right?
So I voted for him 15 times. He should be in the Hall of Fame. If you were around then to watch it, he was the best player in the game over a 5-year period overall. Incredible first baseman and great hitter, batting average, developed power, incredible. And it's great to see. And it's all come around full circle. It's been an amazing career to see that. I mean, he was a Yankee as many years as Willie Randolph. Willie Randolph had 6 rings with the Yankees, but he was with the Yankees in the 70s and the 90s, whereas Mattingly was there in the 80s and the early 2000s. So he missed all those chances. It's fantastic that he gets there. He's gotten to avenge a few things here. As you know, you were there, 95. It was the Mariners who knocked Mattingly out. The one chance he had as a player in the playoffs, he played great. Seattle ended up winning it. Now, Mattingly's Toronto team just beat Seattle. Now he's going against the Dodgers, who he managed. He was the first manager of this very regime, Mark Walters' regime. He left after 2015, parted ways, then became a Marlins manager, but got to the LCS in 2013 with the Dodgers, didn't make it. He is the predecessor to Roberts with the Dodgers, so it'll be interesting to see if they do pull the upset. I mean, it all came up back from Mattingly. Even the hair policy was overturned this year, right? That was a Mattingly fight back in 1991, right? And he's gotten it all, so maybe he'll get everything that he wants.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a fair fight, Don Mattingly versus Stump Merrill, but yeah, it was a fight back then. There was George Steinbrenner then also, even though he wasn't supposed to be around, he was around. Anyway, yeah, I think we're all happy to see Donnie be involved in this. I'm sure he'll have a, I'm sure he'll have a great time during this. John, we always thank Tommy Hogan, our producer, who does such a great job. Again, both of us have been moving around like crazy, and that's not going to change. And Tommy always jumps in at a moment's notice. So when we tell him when we could get a guest and what time, and he makes it all happen, we appreciate that. Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, please rate and review us. Those do help us with the show. So does going to the New York Post YouTube sports page, New York Post Sports YouTube page, and giving us views. Come on, give us some grades. Tell us what you think. Leave some comments. And In a couple of days, John and I are leaving from the World Series, which means sometime during the Fall Classic, we're going to jump back on. So we hope you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman.